Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So today what I want to do is look at several different fans. Find them often on garbage day. Fans come in all different sizes and shapes and models. And the great thing about fans is they are loaded with copper, sometimes aluminum, a lot of tin, sometimes brass, sometimes stainless steel, and they are very easy to take apart. So gonna look at a couple today, show you how to identify the material, be able to separate it properly, and more importantly, maximize your profit and divert as much of these away from the landfill as possible. I do want to caution, before you do take these apart, you do want to plug them in, see if they work. I have sold a number of them at yard sales. I've donated some of them to different places like Goodwill because all they really needed was a cleaning. They work perfectly fine. Some people just buy them for a little bit, they'll store them, and they'll just collect dust. So definitely want to check to see if they work first. All of the ones you see back here, unfortunately, don't work. So definitely great now to be able to scrap them. And I do have a complete video of your traditional stand-up fan like this. I will include it in my the link in my description. But all of these are a great source of copper wire. And one thing I do notice quite often on garbage day is some people will drive by. If the cord is sitting on the bottom here, they will cut the cord. They will take this part of it, which is a great thing, but then they will drive off. And what they don't realize is that just like a lamp, a lot of times this copper wire is actually going all the way up the neck to the control panel and connected to your motor, which can either be copper or it could be aluminum windings, depends on the style and when it was made, but you are losing out on a lot of scrap metal. This one, unfortunately, if I put a magnet to this faceplate here, this is plastic, but there is definitely a copper motor inside of it. This one, I actually found this one at a job site. Look at the size of this, great thing. This whole base here, if I put a magnet to this one, you can see the magnet sticks. I've got steel all the way up the arm. And sometimes, like this one, you will see the guard is tin. Inside of it, those fins, I'm just gonna open this, take the safety thing off. There is a screw, there it is. Sorry, last screw I gotta pull out. But I wanna check these fins or blades because sometimes they can actually be aluminum, which would be clean aluminum. Awesome value there. Clean aluminum right now is going for about 50 cents a pound. This guard, because it is tin, is gonna give me about 8 cents a pound, but just very easy to tell. Put a magnet to these fins. These fins are non-magnetic, so these are aluminum. So I'm gonna get, as I said, 50 cents a pound for these blades. Very easy to do. The only thing that is magnetic on here are the bolts in here. And all I do is I will actually just take a grinder and grind around it, and the rest of this fin will be aluminum. So definitely a great score here. Again, this one will actually be almost 100% scrappable value, and this does weigh a lot. But I do want to concentrate for this one on these styles of fans. This one, they're all kind of built the same. Very little to this. The cord has been snapped off, but a little bit of cord left on this. Look at the beautiful copper coming out of there. There is a motor inside. All I have to do is remove the screws to this one. But the first thing I do want to talk about, as I said, is that cord. These cords right here are going to be classified as 60% appliance wire. And what a scrapyard does is for appliance wire is they will look at plastic to copper ratio and copper recovery. Because this one you can see has 2 strands of copper inside of that and only 1 layer of plastic, there is higher copper content here, less plastic. So this right now at a scrapyard is going to be classified as 60% appliance wire and is currently going for $2.15 a pound. If it was a type, and I'm looking at a couple of my cords right here, something like this one, for example. This is the inner cord that comes out of one of them. This is just the internal guts, if you will. So you notice that it has individual coated strands right here, but it has an outer coating as well. Because this has an outer coating, gives me 2 layers of plastic, there is less copper recovery. So this would be an example of 40% appliance wire. And this right now is actually going for $1.25 a pound. So still an excellent price, but you definitely want to make sure you separate it from your 60% to get that higher value for the outer cord. And this is actually very easy to upgrade. All I have to really do is slide this sheet off, or try to slide this little sheath off. Sometimes you can't do that, but as is, this is gonna give me 40%. So there is my rule, okay? You can see there are little fans here. The other nice thing about these cords is they do have plug-ins. Some people will leave these on for the weight. Some people will break them off and put them into their brass. I do break them off, so I just pull these off. Brass right now is going for about $3.50 a pound. I really haven't seen a difference in separating it, but again, it depends on the scrapper. For me, I definitely will and hopefully build up that weight of brass. So definitely up to you, but this is an excellent score as is. One of these floor ones, what's great about these models, or this one you can see, is sometimes they will have a steel plate on the bottom. And because these styles will rotate from side to side, they usually have 2 copper motors inside. There'll be a small one that turns the shaft, if you will, and the other one obviously to drive the fan. So you do want to make sure you check this one. As I said, for sake of time, I have removed the screws on it to open it. So there is a little bit of plastic here that I have, okay? But inside, very simple. I've got some plastic. This would be my plastic fan. This will be driven or rotate because of the motor there. That motor definitely has some great wire to it. There is a small circuit board at the top. You can see right there, little one here, very little small basic, has a couple little dots on it. This actually would give me low grade wire if I had a scrapyard that divided my circuit boards into low grade, medium grade, high grade. And it depends on where you are. Some places, because some circuit boards have gold and other precious metals, they'll give you higher value for it. Unfortunately, in Sarnia, Ontario, where I go with my scrap, they only give us one price, which is about 5 cents a pound for all e-waste. So if there is things like copper on here, definitely, or aluminum, you definitely want to take that off. But very easy. This, like I said, this I still gonna cut off the wires. Gonna get this plastic out of here. Some people said in my other video that, like New Brunswick, one of my viewers said that in New Brunswick, they will actually take the plastic, they will get tin shred price for it. So right now in London, Ontario, it's about 14 cents for tin. In Sarnia, it's about 8 cents a pound. But that would be awesome if I was given 8 cents a pound for this plastic. Unfortunately, I've checked, I've called around, we do not get that here where I live. So unfortunately, this is gonna go into the landfill. But you definitely want to make sure that if there is any type of tin on the wheel, some of them will have that for sure. That tin is definitely worth taking. And I do want to say you can have some plastic on your tin. So it does not have to be clean like this. Okay, this was actually the disc on the bottom. Sometimes, like this, for example, you'll see little pieces that have rubber on it. This also came off of it. A scrapyard is not going to penalize me for little pieces of plastic. So again, it depends on how much waste you have on your tin. Depend on, if there's way too much, they might downgrade you and give you, a couple cents less per pound. But you definitely want to check with your area, and it definitely depends on where you live. So unfortunately for me, this plastic is also garbage. Okay, this wheel here is plastic as well, but because it is plastic, I still will take off the top. There is, you can see, a little bit of tin that I have here, or even this would actually be a little piece of steel. And the reason we classify this as steel, the difference, where we take our stuff, in order to be classified as steel, the scrapyards will look at the thickness of the metal. Steel has to be thicker than 1/4 inch. So there are definitely some screws and bolts and other pieces of metal that falls under that category. But because I don't have much steel, I just throw it into my tin and get the same price at 8 cents a pound in Sarnia. Steel is usually about 2 cents more. But again, it all depends on the amount. You're gonna definitely get way more tin with your load. So I will pull this off, and very easy to do. All I actually do is I just take a hammer and I just actually just hit it. I'll break it through, and then I will just slide it out. So little piece of tin. It's okay to have that plastic on there. Okay, my motor here, all I do is actually, there is a bolt right there that I have to unscrew. Okay, and I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, so again, all I did was I skipped a couple of steps just to save time. I removed the outer screws. Okay, now I have that out. This too, the rest of this is plastic, but again, if I put a magnet to this, you can see the magnet, it does not stick. Sometimes there is aluminum connectors here, so that is non-magnetic. If it was actually non-magnetic like it is, it could be stainless steel, it could be aluminum. So for the sake of this video, just to show you the difference, I use what we call the spark test. If I hit this with a grinder wheel, like I'm gonna do right now, this, if it is non-magnetic and it produces a spark, it's gonna be stainless steel. If it is non-magnetic and it does not produce a spark, it's gonna be aluminum. So we'll see what it is. So that did not produce a spark. So that is actually a small piece of aluminum that I have. And again, all I'm gonna do actually to take it out is break it open there. I am gonna have to probably feed that through just with a screwdriver, but the rest of this is plastic, again, garbage, okay? But I wanna get that off because that's gonna give me clean aluminum once I remove all the plastic off of that. It's inside of that. I can also just put it in my vise and punch it out, but aluminum. Okay, so again, a little bit of faceplate on this, the rotating. Leave this all intact. It's okay to have a little bit of plastic. This is the Nova brand. Some of them, it is a 50-50 chance. Some people say they don't take fans because they might have aluminum instead of copper in here. And it all depends on the type of fan you have. There's definitely different models. You can see these are some that I took apart. There is the what looks to be copper inside of it. And very easy to do. I'm just gonna actually scratch it with a file just to see if it's copper or not. Okay, if it reveals, if I scratch it and it reveals a metallic look underneath, it is going to be aluminum. But as you can see in there, I've scratched it, that is copper. So I'm actually gonna open this one. This one is a different style. There is a small capacitor on here that I have to take off. All of this is gonna be my 60% appliance wire, so I wanna make sure I get that as well. But again, I'm just gonna use this one. I do also want to take into consideration that I have a small motor like this. These motors you'll also find on microwaves. On the bottom of the microwave, these are what turns the plate. And there are a lot of people that will forget about these. So again, these styles that turn do have a small one. And all I'm actually gonna do is take a hammer. I'm just gonna break this open. Okay, so just use a hammer and smash it aside. Okay. It folds like that. So now I'm just gonna take a screwdriver, find a flathead screwdriver, pop it underneath. There you go. Okay, a little bit more tin. These gears are going to be plastic, but inside of there, once I remove, where's that screwdriver again? I want to remove that faceplate. There's the protective plate. There is a nice little coil of copper. So want to get this one out. Okay, just going to open it. So here's a little bit of tin again. Take my side cutters. I'm just going to actually just pop the side off just to show you. There it is. Look at that copper right there. Okay, there it is. So there is a spool of copper. All of this copper right here is going to be number 2 copper. And currently right now, number 2 copper is going for about $4.43 a pound. And it all adds up. This might look like a little bit, but I just throw it into bags. I just finished a bag that had 29 pounds of number 2. And all of it comes from little motors like this and other motors that you see here. So just because they're small does not mean they don't count. Okay, so now we're just gonna do, last thing, just gonna open this. This motor does have a couple bolts that I have to take off. And I did have a question from someone about your capacitors, which are these. What do I do with those? I actually just throw them into a container. I will get capacitor weight price. It's not much, but it's definitely better than nothing. Sometimes I just throw them into my e-waste. Again, it depends on your scrapyard. I know in one of my videos, unfortunately, I called it a battery. It is not a battery, it's a capacitor, so I apologize for that and thank one of my viewers for pointing that out. So a little bit of capacitors. I do also have an upcoming video. Some of your capacitors are going to have a nice size to them. Sometimes they do come in like an aluminum casing. You'll find a lot in dehumidifiers, air conditioners, other different places. And the question I had was, are they worth opening? Some people will open them up just to take the shell, which is aluminum. I actually don't like doing that because they are filled with a type of oil. And I don't really think it's worth that aluminum because it's very light and I don't like the mess. But again, some people, depends on who you are or where you are, depends on the amount of scrap you have for sure. I can do definitely a video to see if it's worth it, but you know, definitely for educational purposes and to the scrapper that we have. So all I did, I've removed the bolts. In order to get this faceplate off, I do have to remove this little prong there. Very easy to do. I'm just going to grab my pliers or side cutters, just pop it out. Sometimes it's easier than others. There you go. So a little bit of tin. Now that I have that off, this is all going to be a piece of tin. Sometimes the motor does pop off like this. Sometimes if it's stuck in here, you do need to just leverage it out with a screwdriver. But here is some beautiful number 2. As I said, I already scratched it, but going to scratch it again for you to show you. Okay, so beautiful number 2 copper. And what I want to do is with this is first mention, these can be sold at a scrapyard as is. You can get a copper bearing motor price, and it's about 15 to 25 cents a pound. But because this is copper, I'm going to get $4.43 a pound for the copper. Definitely worth scrapping and separating. The other great thing about it is once I remove the copper, the rest of this shell is actually going to go into my tin as well. So I'm still going to get the value for this. There is zero waste. And the other thing about these is all I'm actually going to do, very simple, just take a grinder and grind around that. I do have a video on taking apart motors, but and I will include that link in my description below, but very easy. Just going to take one side of it, grind around it. I do always put a type of wall here as well. I've used, for example, just a cardboard box that collects any type of my copper dust. So I do put that up here, and I do have to go get it. I've been in the middle of cleaning up my garage. It's become very messy, but I will use this as a catch basin. And again, I'm just going to show you very simple how to cut this wire. And I use different angles because, you know, some people use a vise to hold this in. I just hold it. Okay. Some people, if you are very nervous about holding it, I've also done it so I have a pair of pliers, for example. It all depends on who you are and your comfortability, but I just hold it with pliers. Okay, and as you can see, it folds up. Sometimes I got to finish the cut. You can actually use a pair of side cutters to cut this as well, just to show you how easy this is to do. But again, this just folds up like this. And what I'm going to do now is just put it back into the vise, and I'm just going to punch it out. Okay, there is a little bit of dust in here, and I just throw that into my number 2 bag as well. But just going to quickly show you. I do have, as I said, another video on this, so that's why I'm not taking a lot of time on this. There are definitely different styles of motors, but here's just a punch that I take. Take my gloves off, okay, just so it will fit in the holes. to connect it. Just going to hit it out. You can see it sliding down here. Very easy. Okay, so as you can see, just slides out. There it is. Slides out nicely, both sides. Okay, so again, not going to do the whole thing. I just wanted to show you for this video. But some number 2 copper. You do want to make sure that you pull off these plastics. I throw them out. I will also, once it's all out, I will cut the strands so the string's not in my copper. But as you can see here, just started another bag of copper bearing motors. And this is probably about 5 pounds already. And again, it doesn't take a lot, but at $4.43 a pound, definitely want to check your motors. And as I said, of these motors as well, some of them are going to be aluminum, unfortunately. Some of them will be copper. And again, before I start taking it apart, I definitely want to do the scratch test. If it was aluminum, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I will get my motor price for the weight, especially because aluminum, this kind of aluminum would be dirty aluminum. But there's definitely a lot of manufacturers out there that are starting to use aluminum wire for all types of motors. It's cheaper. It is conductive, but it's definitely cheaper than copper. And unfortunately, I would say that things aren't made to last anymore. So definitely want to check first. But fans are still an excellent source of scrap. They have lots of tin. You definitely have a lot of the cord. Definitely want to make sure you take the whole thing because there is still cord that runs all the way up the neck to the motor. Those motors can be copper, number 2 copper. There is a lot of tin in there. Your fans like this can be aluminum as well. And as I said, tin price at 8 cents a pound. Tin definitely adds up, and it does not take a lot to build up a truckload. I just came back from the scrap yard 2 days ago. I had 560 pounds of tin, and that was just from my scrapping day-to-day. Different frames of appliances and other items like your motor ends here. So definitely heavy, definitely worth scrapping. Make sure you check those fans before you scrap them because resale value of those or donating them is definitely better than taking them apart and scrapping them. But definitely all diversion away from the landfill is a plus for all of us. So thank you for the questions. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.